Scrum is simple. The rules fit in a 14-page guide. Most of us can recite the basics: cross-functional team, clear roles, short sprints, inspect and adapt. So why do so many teams still struggle with the basics even today? We've surveyed hundreds of Scrum Masters, product owners, developers, and managers, and the results are clear. Even when people know what good Scrum looks like, the reality often doesn't match. Let's look at 5 Scrum rules that are simple on paper, but often make or break teams in the real world. Everyone knows there are 3 roles in Scrum: product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. Simple, right? Yet when we asked people about their challenges, role confusion came up again and again. We heard from teams who said no one seemed to know who was responsible for what. Others told us that restructuring left them lost about their own role. Some said their product owner was treated like a team lead, making all the calls. This happens because organizations don't take the time to define or respect the boundaries of these roles. That leaves team members guessing, stepping on each other's toes, or leaving gaps where no one takes ownership. One simple exercise that can help is to have everyone write down what they think each role does, then compare notes. The differences will surprise you, and they'll give you a great starting point to agree on clear, shared expectations. Scrum teams are meant to succeed or fail together. The sprint goal is shared, but in practice, teams often divide work up like a buffet. Developers take one slice, testers get what's left, and everyone eats alone. We heard from teams who said features always seem to land on one person's desk. Testers told us they felt abandoned until the very end of the sprint. It feels efficient to keep everyone busy with their own work, but it actually kills the ability to finish together. That's the real problem. Teams confuse efficiency with effectiveness. If this sounds familiar, try swarming. Pick a single backlog item and have multiple people work on it until it's done. It'll feel strange at first, like you're leaving people idle, but the payoff is huge. You'll start finishing things as a team, not just working in parallel. Another classic sign is constant carryover. Teams know the rule: don't take on more than you can finish. And yet we heard from people who said they always had spillover every sprint. One person told us it felt like their wheels were spinning. They never got to the finish line. Why does this happen? Because teams want to please. They overcommit to leadership, to stakeholders, even to themselves. And when the sprint ends, they normalize the disappointment. Carryover becomes just how we work. But it doesn't have to be that way. Treat unfinished work as a broken promise, not as business as usual. Shrink your commitments until you can actually hit 100% consistently. Build trust by finishing what you start. Scrum events are supposed to be valuable. Inspect, adapt, collaborate. That's the point. But too often they become status updates or dead air. We heard about retrospectives where nobody spoke up. Daily scrums that felt like nothing more than check-ins. Sprint planning squeezed so tight there was no time for real discussion. The problem is teams forget that these events are for them, not for management. When meetings become just another obligation, people check out. Here's something you can try. At your next meeting, ask the team, if this meeting didn't exist, what would we miss? If the answer is nothing, then it's time to change the format until that meeting sparks conversation, debate, or decisions. Finally, let's talk about the backlog. Everyone knows it should be clear, prioritized, and broken down into small pieces. But in practice, that's not always what happens. We heard from teams who admitted backlog management was a constant struggle. Developers said they came to refinement unprepared. Others said they still split work into dev stories and QA stories instead of finishing items together. Why? Because splitting big items is hard, and refinement isn't anyone's favorite meeting. So teams treat it as optional, and the result is chaos. Stories that are too big, priorities that are vague, and planning sessions that feel like firefighting. One fix is to make refinement a team responsibility, not just the product owner's job. Rotate who brings the first draft of a backlog item. When everyone has to try writing items, everyone gets better, and backlog sessions stop feeling like a one-way street. Scrum is easy to understand, but hard to master. And this last rule may be the most important one of all. Knowing the rules isn't enough. You have to apply them. Teams don't fail because they don't understand Scrum. They fail because they don't stick with it, or they abandon the basics when things get tough. The good news is these problems aren't permanent. With the right focus and the right training, you can break the cycle of knowing better but not doing better. That's why we built Working on a Scrum Team. It's a practical 2-day team-based course that helps reset habits, clear up role confusion, and give your team a shared playbook for Scrum that actually works in the real world. If these struggles sounded familiar, this course was built for you. Bring your team or a few change makers and walk away aligned, equipped, and ready to deliver.